We come from a history that was filled with unspeakable acts of discrimination and unconstitutional acts, hoping each time that it will be different the next time. It seems, however, that we are stuck. In fact, we may have lost our vigorous desire for our rights altogether. In 1989, Thurgood Marshall said that history teaches us that grave threats to liberty often come in times of urgency, when constitutional rights seem too extravagant to endure. He was absolutely correct in this assertion, and it is evident in our past and present history. An interesting dynamic emerges when the idea of American liberty is endangered. The government, the people, and everything with force is fully behind the protection of this idea. Moreover, it seems that when grave threats to liberty come from abroad, it means the self-dissolving of liberties at home. This is evident in the way that we are dealing with the war on terror. In response to this event, the government has enacted the Patriot Act, directly a violation of the Bill of Rights, yet nothing is being done to put an end to it. More recently, there have been violations of American liberties from U.S. agencies such as the Transportation Security Administration. It seems that the image of free America is more important than the freedoms of the individuals in America. In our past, we have encountered wars that pose great threats to our nation, and our response to those threats were as restricting as they are today. Responses seemingly have not evolved. During the Civil War, it was President Lincoln who took personal liberties with our citizens' rights when he forced state militias into one entity, increased the size of the military, and used Treasury money without proper authority, shut down the post office, snuffed press rights, and suspended habeas corpus. He did this all in the name of national security. Instead of finding these actions erroneous and highly unnatural to our American ways, the country just maintained and built upon these actions. During World War I, Woodrow Wilson created a censorship board, which allowed the Postmaster General to have complete power over what may have been deemed as harmful to national security. The Alien and Sedition Acts of 1798 were pieces of legislation that repressed almost anyone, citizen or not, whom the government saw as a threat, including socialists and pacifists. It also gave the government the authority to deport any alien who they thought was a threat to national security. This era also included the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Which allowed the complete authority to seize and deport any resident alien whose home country was at war with the U.S. The act remains in today's legislation. World War II would see no difference. Franklin D. Roosevelt had planned a different approach for his policies than Wilson. However, by the time the war got into full swing, he reinstituted the Espionage Act of 1917, which allowed for the domestic surveillance along with other unconstitutional acts. The worst of all acts by Congress was the detainment of Japanese Americans, all in the name of national security. These acts are all seen in the current political environment, with the war on terror and national security being the word of the decade. We are living in a time where congressional acts of old that would be frowned upon are being used again today. The Alien Enemies Act of 1798 is still in use today. The Espionage Act of 1917 is still used in many ways to this day, and the recent Patriot Act of 2001. All of these responses to the threat by government are hindering freedoms that we as citizens are privy to. Yet over many years, not much has changed. It seems that constitutional rights are indeed too extravagant to endure.